Hello, everyone. Welcome to Piano Tech Radio Hour once again. Good to see you all. Wow, I'm noticing, I don't know if it's always been this way. It looks like Horat Piano's image there was of an accordion. Is that correct? Do you know how to unmute yourself? Let me see, ask to unmute. Maybe I'll give you a little.
I can't remember what it was.
The image, yeah, you had an image in place of your in place of your your Zoom image or whatever, your profile picture, and there was like I think an accordion sitting on the ground and maybe a few others. Are you an accordion person as well?
No, not at all. It's an instrument I saw in one of the museums that I visited.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Very cool. I'm not an accordion person per se, but I got an accordion from my family a few years back for Christmas, as it happens, and I've had fun playing around with it. But I have not tried to tune it yet, and it needs tuning. You always think as a piano tuner you might be able to tune other things, and then you dive in and you go, okay, wait, this is a different beast. Well, good to see everyone here. Still having people shuffle in. So I'll keep letting them in, but we'll get rolling along to make sure we have time to feast upon the tidbits that I have prepared and maybe do a little bit of reflection on the year, a little bit of looking forward to next year. I think certainly everybody is probably feeling in a lot better situation than they did a few years ago, with the pandemic looming and everything. But don't want to make assumptions. We all have our different situations. But let me give an intro to what we're doing here, especially for the folks that are out there on Facebook and YouTube, maybe catching this for the first time. Welcome to Piano Tech Radio Hour. What we do here is we gather every Saturday to meet with and learn from the most fascinating and knowledgeable folks in the piano world, including manufacturers, rebuilders, musicians, makers of other instruments, and of course, piano techs. Our mutual goal is to become better at our craft, to help each other, and to create an ever more musical world together. Piano Tech Radio Hour is brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses, an online learning resource that brings you cutting-edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. You can find out more about that at pianotechniciansmasterclass.com. And today we are fast approaching the Christian holiday of Christmas, but of course in full recognition of every other representation of faith or non-faith, just kind of a time of year to wrap up on things, look forward to the next year, celebrate maybe our individual, according to our individual faith, or just take advantage of the fact that everybody's distracted by Christmas and maybe we can catch up on something. So yeah, a couple people to let in here. So what I wanted to do is maybe take a minute or two, if we want to. We'll see what the energy is here, to reflect and look forward. But I also do have some cool lecture tidbits that you guys might not be aware of queued up, so that you can take a look at those. And so 2022 has been certainly an interesting year. I myself, if you can't tell, a little bit under the weather, so excuse me, a little bit scratchy and congested. I did get tested for COVID, no flu. So that's really nice. I've escaped this whole thing unscathed. I've got my vaccines when it was appropriate, mostly wore my mask and so on and so forth, and never actually got COVID myself. People close to me have, though. So I consider myself blessed. My mother, actually, after all this time, she's in her 80s. She got COVID a couple of weeks ago. But, she's recovered, right? It's a different story these days with vaccines and everything and knowledge. And it's a scary moment, but it's not as scary as it had traditionally been. And we admit a couple more people here. Yeah. All right. Good to see everyone joining us today. Hello, Dan Garrido. How are you doing today? Good to see you. All right. Yeah. Well, so for 2022, it's definitely been a busy year, a lot going on in our personal business in New York City. Things, relatively back to normal. Maybe even catching up on tunings that hadn't been able to been accomplished in the recent past. Maybe there's a little bit of shuffling around of clientele. Maybe it's something interesting people might reflect on. I know. For instance, we recently contracted with, a number of different other technicians in the area to kind of like share clientele and things like that. But it's interesting, right? If you haven't tuned for a couple of years, has that person maybe they caught someone else along the way and they moved on to a different tuner, or maybe vice versa. Maybe you've had some people who chose to work with you, alternative to someone else. So it's been an interesting moment here of transition. Anybody have any interesting stories about how your clientele may have changed, throughout this year as opposed to previous years, or has it been pretty consistent? Carl, what about you? Did you feel like it was like right back on it with the folks that you worked with before?
I've changed my mix a little. I'm winding down, so
Mhm.
I had 1,000 private clients. I do one private client a week. I'm doing almost all stage pianos and recording pianos at this point. And like I'm doing a Harry Connick concert tonight in a 3,000 seat auditorium. And I'm also doing a Herb Alpert concert tonight in a big auditorium.
Oh, nice.
So, I enjoy doing stage work more. And I'm just kind of letting go of the private things. I'm keeping, some of them have Faziolis and special pianos that I keep working on. And it's been hard to say goodbye to people who I've worked for forever.
Yeah.
But basically, I'm working less, but doing more high-end stuff. So that's what's changed for me.
Okay. And is it an intentional process for you? So your clientele thinning out, for example, do you intentionally give them, do they call you and you say, hey, in particular, I've got my exclusive clientele. Do you pass them along to someone specific?
Well, I do have a younger person. First of all, I don't take any new people. When new people call me, it's out of the question. And on the old people,
But wait, we need to ask a question though. I mean, I just for fun, I want to validate here. If Elton John shows up and says, I want you to.
Yes.
I want you to hang out in my home and tune my piano every day.
So I work for a lot of concert halls and recording studios and stuff. And so the people at these places, if they refer someone to me and they say, call Carl, he's got to take, of course I'm going to say yes. I'm not, I want to maintain my relationships. But basically, on my old clients, if I really like them or I really like their piano, I say yes, and I might do one or two of those a week. But I don't. So I used to solicit business. I had people every 3 months, every 6 months, every 12 months, and I methodically just emailed them or texted them and set up an appointment. It was all on autopilot. I just don't do any of that anymore. So and I probably do a dozen stage pianos every week. So it's not like I'm just sitting home doing nothing. I'm not hearing you for whatever reason.
I think of a reason. I muted myself. That would be the reason. Try to keep the any background noise to a minimum while other people are talking. But sometimes that bites me in butt. But yeah, that's awesome. I mean, and I think that's the appeal of this profession. And to be honest, some of you may know, or it may seem obvious, like I actually don't tune as much nowadays. I used to tune all the time. And now I'm sort of doing things that are more in service to the industry or running business in New York. I actually kind of here's what I miss. I miss the cool people that you meet, the cool conversations that you have. I miss getting an offer for tea and a cookie and a sandwich, and just I miss that so much, and the building the relationships and playing the piano when you're done and somebody is like, whoa, like this is amazing, you're a genius. I think we have this profession where there's not a lack of gratitude, right, for what we do. I was talking with a friend recently who was in the construction industry. They would go in people's houses and, do home improvements. Now, listen, people like to have home improvements, don't get me wrong, but they don't like having construction workers in their house for 8 months, and then it turns into 9 months, and then 10 months. And they're just like, get out of my house. I don't want to see you. Yes, I kind of want this done, but I don't necessarily appreciate you. Like, you're kind of like in my space. But we get in people's spaces in a very friendly way. They enjoy it. And then, and there's a lot of selectivity. Even when I first started as a young piano technician, I remember being able to turn people down felt kind of nice. You learn that it's a little bit annoying. You want to be that person that could be there for everyone at every time. But it is nice to be selective and make those choices. And a lot of us do have that privilege. So that's a really good point, Carl.
Well, and we're not like the dentist. People, if you go to someone's house, or you go to a stage, or you go to a recording studio, or you go anywhere, they're happy to see you. They are so glad that you showed up. I mean, there's so much goodwill to us as a profession. So, it's fun being a piano technician. I mean, I think.
Yeah. I definitely agree. I'm starting to try to think to myself, what are the disadvantages? Like some are coming to mind, but I don't talk about them. Like, even don't go there. I'll say one, which came to mind immediately, and it was just one for me. If you don't work on like really pristinely kept pianos, the dust, like opening up the piano and fixing some things, and then looking at my fingertips, and there's literally dust kind of caked on them from.
Listen, I don't know about you. I grew up as a kid eating dirt.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm not afraid of germs. Pianos are dirty. I clean pianos. I don't know. It's a non-issue for me.
That's not good.
Dirty. Yeah.
Okay, that's nice. That's good for you. That's good. Anybody else have any reflections on the state of where you're at right now, or even looking forward? Anybody got big, ambitious plans for 2023? I could share some interesting stuff, but yeah, anything? Anybody making a little calendar and mapping out their takeover of the piano industry or anything like that? Maybe Kevin, you're looking pretty intentional there. You're going to do anything special in 2023? You're going to wow us?
I'm not sure, but two things came to mind when you guys were talking. I've been scheduling out my church clients and my my more regular use pianos out, and it's been great because I look at January right now, and like I guess about 45% of January is booked already. And I
That's
offer
awesome.
11 in-home tunings a week, and I have a day for store, and I teach 2 days a week, and have a couple room for some gigs here and there. But so that's been helping. And then number two was I turned down my first spin it the other day. So
Congratulations.
Yes, I got some sticking keys on a 1960 Lion Healy Spinet. I was like, find somebody else.
Congratulations. Yeah, we should have we should create some little milestone awards, right? We can give to people like a little pin. Turn down your first spin it.
Yeah, it's got to be like the star sticker book. You get one star on your tuning bag or whatever every time you turn on a spin.
Yeah. I actually started creating some of those for our team at Photon Piano Factory. It didn't pick up in terms of popularity, but it was really fun to kind of design them.
I'm so glad that I've worked on bird cages, and I've worked on square grands, and I've replaced plastic elbows and plastic parts in spinets, and I'm glad, but I never want to do any of that ever again.
Has its time and place. Yes, that sounds about right.
May I ask Carl a question?
Sure.
Nope. Sorry, no questions. Carl and I have an agreement. Nobody can ask him a question.
Oh man, we're going to be here a long time.
Yeah, go ahead. What do you got for Carl?
Kevin? What's up?
No, I was just wondering, what did you do in your early career? Like when you were 10 years in and had your client base, like what did your weekly schedule look like back then?
So when I started out, I started working for a store and doing the free tunings that they gave when they sold the piano, and then I started working for a Yamaha dealer and started doing the service bond 1s and the service bond 2s. And I would work, and I would drive 50 miles for a tuning. When I started, the stores paid me $12.50. This is 1972, and privates paid me $15. And I would work on any piano. So I worked on old uprights, I worked on spinets, consoles. I worked on anything. Anyone who would pay me, I would drive there. I would work. I was and I did that, and up through 10 years out, I just started doing more and more pianos. I was probably doing 800 tunings a year. I was just doing a lot. I would bring actions home to my shop a little bit. I just have a simple shop, but I would file hammers and regulate and stuff like that. Now I do everything at the piano. I hate bringing stuff home. So I'm doing, I'm happy to spend a couple of hours extra at the piano, but I don't like to bring things home. It's like homework to me. It's a term paper. I don't want any term papers. But, so I worked on more ordinary pianos 10 years out, and I drove a farther distance, but I was always kind of, it dawned on me, this is a business where, let's just say a piano tuning is $50. And you go in and you're planning to get $50. And then you say, but I could do a little something extra to your piano and get an extra $50. And then all of a sudden you got $100, and a certain amount of this business, certainly back then, was a cash business. And so I was like, I enjoyed making money as a piano tuner, and then I would say also for me, very early on, I figured out that commercial clients filled out your schedule. I started after 1 year, I got this gig working for Princess Cruises. I've now worked for Princess Cruises for 50 years. Okay. And that, those cruise ships are a sinecure. You do 4, 5, 6 pianos on a ship. You do them regularly. Once you get the piano settled down, it's really easy to do. So I've done that my whole career. And then I started doing things like hotels and putting them on regular programs, doing the lobby piano every 2 weeks, doing the bar piano every 2 weeks. And so I built my business. And so, I was never someone who liked to, but and in all those years, I used to do calls. I used to go through my things and call people and say, it's time to have your piano tuned. I hated doing that. I hated having to do that, but I needed to do that to fill out my schedule. And so, I was a working, supporting a family. I was a working piano technician. I was trying to make money, so I was hustling for work. Now all I do is say yes or no to people who contact me. I don't contact anyone, so it's really changed in over the years. But, 5 years out, 10 years out, 20 years out, I was always trying to generate business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. I wanted to see if Kevin had a response, but also, did anybody else have anything they wanted to share? Anybody in particular? Dan? I see you. Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. How are things
Here,
going?
can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm doing good. Yeah, just kind of, like what Carl was saying, I work for a store, so I'm in that phase of where I'm just, I can't do outside clients as much as, I try to do service calls for the store, but just the shop work alone is keeping me busy. That's what I'm doing. Actually, I'm working on right now. Let me turn around here. Working on a player system for Cobart Cable.
Wow.
That's it. I'm doing the rail. I got a pile of stuff here. There's the one I'm working on. There's a Baldwin I got to do. There's a Steinway I just finished. There's some other Steinway that came in, shipped from some other place.
No lack of things
stuff
to work on there.
Oh no, there's a new B. There's a new B I got to get out of the crate sometime, maybe.
Which store is
anyway,
this, and where are you again?
I'm at Pritchard's Pianos in Sarasota, Florida.
Oh, okay. Cool.
And yeah, I'm pretty busy, and it's just me and another tech, and we're really really grateful. We had the past couple years we got the Steinway Prestigious Dealer Award for the Western Hemisphere. So
Whoa.
really, yeah, really.
That's
Clark Dawson's place?
Clark Dawson. Yep, I work for
Oh,
Clark.
okay, 'cause I buy covers from you guys.
Yep.
very cool.
Yeah,
well,
I
we
don't. I'm not involved in the string cover business too much. That's pretty much Clark's thing. But Clark is the owner of the store now. So took it over from Dave Pritchard.
should we get Clark on the show? Is that something you'd be
That's
interested
something
in?
we
or-
can do. He's actually going to be not really in the store much for the remainder of the year, but for come New Year, then he'll be around more.
Cool. Yeah,
So
run it by him.
That'd be something to just reach out to me if you wanted to maybe get something like that going.
Perfect. How long have you been in the business, Dan?
I've been in about 10 years.
Okay, great.
And I started with the store. I started with moving pianos, and I still got to do it. So moving pianos on the truck and then just hanging around the shop and doing it. I have a mechanical background though. I was an auto mechanic for many years and sound engineer and drummer, bass player. So
Perfect combination.
musical combination and mechanical stuff. So
Awesome. Yeah,
That's
I
what
mean
I
that's really cool stuff. Would love to get to know you a bit more. Thanks for kind of checking in and sharing about this stuff. That's really cool.
Yep.
Kevin, did you have any comments on what Carl said, or just kind of absorbing information?
Yeah, not particularly. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I've been in the business for about 5 years, and I'm also a musician, and so it's always cool to see what other people did in the past, and learn from all that. So
Yeah, if you just recreate Carl's past, you're going to be in for quite a roller coaster, my friend.
well, there's going to be
it's
no
gonna be-
ships coming out to Denver anytime soon. So
No, but
Yeah.
there
ski
are,
resorts. Are there ski resorts nearby? That would be an
yeah, there's
interesting
ships
place.
that come through the ski resorts. Yeah.
let me just make a comment. If you're around the piano business, piano tuners tend to be undervalued. Okay, when you work at a store, the person who owns the store, gives you volume and it's really great. You learn a lot, but you're not paid a lot by the store for everything you do. And they're in the business of it's a tough business to sell pianos and make a living. But if you work for a university, you're kind of the low man on the totem pole compared to people who are the professors and the musicians. You're the piano technician. You're all of the music places that people tend to work, you're undervalued. But when you go out into the larger world, okay, where you work for hotels, or you work for concert halls, or you work for private, then all of a sudden you can charge pretty much whatever you can charge. In other words, it's a whole different ecosystem economically when you get out of piano teachers, piano stores, churches, things like that. That tends to be the lowest paying piano work. And if you can connect with the world of and where they need pianos, it's much more higher paying.
Good advice, Carl. Thanks for sharing it. If there's any other comments or tidbits, we didn't get anybody talking about their plans for 2023. I do have these lectures queued up, but let me just, John. Hey, John. Are you unmuted for a reason? Okay. I think that's John's family trying to help him find a camera. Hello? All right, I'm going to mute you, John. I was going to say for 2023, I've just brought on an operations manager, very, very minimal part-time, but I'm excited about it for Floating Piano Factory in New York. And also be helping out with piano technicians master classes. So we'll be working on getting out there a little bit more, kind of like you were saying, Carl, drumming up the business. And these days it's I don't even know how the phone call, I used to do phone calls back in, when I started around the year 2000, but that's like 23 years ago. Phone calls were a means of communication that people expected. We've shied away from that as of late. It's more reminder emails, reminder text messages, and things like that. But SEO is a big deal, kind of making sure you're going to show up on the internet for folks, and ads you might run on different platforms and things like that. So we'll be exploring things like that to try to make sure that we're on top of things and expanding and in front of people. So
Ethan,
yeah.
I would just say to everyone, getting clients from your website, I mean, it's good, but it's random. It could be anyone. It's, you'd rather have a referral source that is more about you personally. But everyone who's listening to this, you have to have a website. Think of it as your business card, an extended business card. People want to know who you are. They want to know something about you. And a lot of people, I think, make the mistake of thinking that you're trying to educate the world about pianos and you have a million articles on your website about pianos. What people want to know is, who are you? Why should I hire you? Why should I let you into my house? And everyone should have a website that basically introduces themselves, and so that people want to see who you are before you come over.
That's great. And I'll share something that people might not, encounter if you're just heads down piano technician, but you do have the website and you want to make it good. There's something that in marketing they call a client avatar. So you make up a person, you give them a name. It may be the name. There may be a client that you actually have that's kind of like your typical client, but you give them a name. You maybe even choose a picture that kind of looks like them, an age. But beyond all those statistics you have about them, you describe like who they are and what they care about, right? So for like Floating Piano Factory, when I think about it, that's our business in New York. There's like kind of an amalgamation of a few like really great clients that we have. So I always say it's like, oh, he's like a reporter at the New York Times. He's got a pretty good career, right? Or maybe he works for like the National Institutes of Health or something. It's a sort of higher up. But when he comes home, he loves to play the piano, and he plays it for like an hour a day or 2 hours, maybe, right? Just as his way of unwinding or just getting in touch. Probably takes lessons with like a great teacher in the city, because you can do that in New York City, right? You can find these amazing teachers. And maybe even on the weekend is spending a couple extra hours playing. And that client is so enthusiastic about the piano, they might even want to get it tuned every month, right? Or at least they want to take really good care of it because it gives them so much pleasure, right? So, but that is different. That's a different avatar from someone else who says, I want to tune for if they've got to play, they literally play at Carnegie Hall and I'm their home piano tuner, right? Or my client avatar is the person who manages pianos at Carnegie Hall. I want to direct how I'm marketing towards that person, right? So along with Carl's advice, you want to think, what's my niche in the industry? And no matter who you are, there's going to be something that's special about you, whether it's, the concert level stuff, the certain type of home player, the certain type of, sort of like a company that you would like to work for and things like that. I remember Carl and I had a discussion, I think it was a couple of years ago at this point, but talking about that avatar of the guy who probably manages the pianos at the hotel or the university or whatever. They actually, here's what they want. They want to never have to talk to you or deal with you, right? They just want it taken care of. And if you know that that's how you want to communicate with them, hey, I know you got a bunch of stuff to do well beyond making sure the piano is taken care of. If you work with me, it's going to be taken care of, right? Everybody's going to think you're amazing at that part of your job and you can take care of everything else, right? Well, that's how the way the person thinks. That's how you make your website, right? You make your website to kind of appeal to that type of character. Am I right, Carl?
Absolutely, 100%.
Right. Yeah. So it's something to think about beyond like, oh, what colors do I like? And, what kind of fun logo am I going to have? But like, who's that person you want to appeal to? Cool. All right. I think, a little content might be fun here. I got some good stuff queued up. So let's do it. I have a lecture here. Let me see if I make sure I've got it pulled up on the right place. A pretty awesome one that I don't know that we've shared much of, from Debbie Sear. We had in 2021, we did a bit of an online convention where we had several people come in and out and give some really great content. So what I've chosen is, we may only get to one or two of these, but I've chosen, I think these are all from that convention. And this particular one, if you are a rebuilder, I mean, if you're super experienced at rebuilding and you know exactly what you do and you don't need any more input, that's fine. But if you're anywhere along the curve of like, I want to get into rebuilding, I've started getting into rebuilding, but I always make a bunch of mistakes and I'm learning from them every time. Like, this lecture is really great for you, because it's Debbie Sear, who's made all the mistakes, basically, a teacher at North Bennett Street School. She talks about a grand teardown. So you take that grand piano, you're going to rebuild it. Here's all of the things you want to think of as you take it apart, so that when you put it back together, you don't go, oh crap, where did this go? Does this go in first? Does this go in second? Do I have to do this or that? So I want to play a little snippet from that lecture, because I think people will appreciate that one. And let me just double check. Oh yeah, I just got a direct message from somebody, so nobody had a comment. All right, so give me 1 second and I'll cue that up and we'll enjoy that for a minute or two. It'll be about like 10, 12 minutes. We'll check that one out. All right, and let's find the appropriate. Okay, let me make sure I got that queued up. There it is. And here we go. Go full screen. Start about 4:10.
You put in this piano, of course, this morning. And here we are. Like you said, we had talked about this, probably in 17. I think you might have that right, about doing something like this. And it seemed a little bit far-fetched, but not so far-fetched. And here we are. Thanks for putting it all together.
Sure, we're doing it. And of course, thanks to North Bennett Street for jumping on and sponsoring this convention as well. It's exciting to partner with North Bennett Street.
Yeah, and we're excited too. We have our advanced piano technology students joining in. Hi to all you guys and the instructor as well. So exciting, it's great. All right, I'm Debbie. I'm an instructor. I'm also the department head at the Piano Technology Department at North Bennett Street School. Just a few words before I get started about North Bennett Street. North Bennett Street, for those of you that don't know, was the first vocational training school in the United States when it got started in 1885. Today we have 9 programs: bookbinding, jewelry making, locksmithing, violin making, carpentry, preservation carpentry, cabinet and furniture making, and then the 2 pieces of piano technology: basic piano technology, which focuses on learning aural tuning, along with basic in-home repairs and regulation. There's also a component of business classes, because we all know that knowing how to tune is one thing, knowing how to establish and run your business is an entirely different thing. Advanced piano technology focuses on the complete rebuilding of grand pianos, along with in-home service and continued aural tuning. Just a note, if anyone is interested, next week North Bennett Street is having its annual open house on December 14, 15, and 16, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's virtual, of course, with department tours and interviews of instructors and students. Instructors and students are in person at the school. So you will be talking to actual people in the departments. The piano department open house is on Tuesday, December 15. You can find the schedule online at nbss.edu. And if anyone is considering applying to North Bennett Street, don't hesitate to reach out to me if you have any questions. And an exciting piece of information: North Bennett Street will be awarding $1 million in scholarships for this next year's class. That's for under 200 students total enrollment. I think it's like 160 or 170 students. It's a great time to consider it. My spiel is done, so let's get down to business. Let me share my screen.
Is there, I want to ask you real
Yeah.
quick, Debbie, is there some sort of a link where people can sort of register to attend that
The open house?
the open house? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there is. I don't have it right on me, but I'm sure
Okay.
it's on the website.
I'll look for it during the session too and see if I can
Yeah.
provide it.
Yeah.
You're good to go.
Yep. All right. This might look familiar to a few of you. This is not so different from what we usually see when we start the teardown process, right? It's beat up, it's dead, it's past its prime. And this is what we want to get to. It looks brand new. It's been completely rebuilt. And how to get from one to the other is what this class is about. Not how, but how to take the measurements to do that. Before you take anything apart, make sure you'll remember how to put everything back correctly. This class is a step-by-step procedure for disassembling and recording measurements in the piano. Having some kind of standard form is best. It'll be your constant roadmap from rebuild to rebuild. Here we have an old Word doc that was originally a typewritten and mimeoed template. I'm not sure how many of you even know what those words are, typewritten and mimeoed. And then eventually I put it on the computer as a Word doc. And Lewis, who is now the advanced piano technology instructor, has taken it even further, brought it even more up to date. But it's all the same basic information. You will get a link. Ethan will make sure that you get a link so that you can have this form. It's a 4-page document that you can record all your measurements on.
Or I will send you a mimeograph in the mail.
There you go.
We'll see whichever.
Nowadays, Excel also works well for doing this. And if you're in Excel, you can have tabs at the bottom. Here's the teardown sheet, that 4-page sheet. That's a Word doc. You can also have a hardware checklist, your plain wire, your bass strings, your work done, your rib measurements. And we'll go a little bit more into that towards the end of the class. But you'll also get access to that form also. So, and this form is the one that has all the different checklists on it. Here we have a combination of both of those. It's a binder with tabbed folders. And this is something like what Lewis is using. So we've got the case, you've got the action, board and bridges, plate and pin blocks, stringing, work done, with folders to put your notes in. No matter which way you do it, just do it and be consistent about it. You can always update your forms as you go along, add things, subtract things, and when the piano is completed, keep that file. You'll be surprised how often you need to go back to it to see what size tuning pins you put in this piano, to see what parts you put on, what finish you applied. It's the historical record for that piano. You really should consider keeping it. So here you have the 2 different forms we just saw. There's a digital one here, if you want to keep your records digitally. And take pictures. We all have a camera in our pockets all the time. Most of the time, it's not even in the pocket, it's in your hands. Take pictures to add to your files. And the case, base, the bench, legs, lyre, trap levers, lid, case sides, anything that looks suspicious or funny or not quite right. Top section, the inner rim, before and after, the action, before and after, key tops, the damper system, and anything unusual. The pictures you can never take enough pictures. You could have a whole pile of pictures, and the one you really need is the one you didn't take. No matter which way you record the info, you'll need to have this info from the start. This one is old school, before computers. We would need to add email and cell phone on here, but the client's information, the date that it moved in, who the movers were, the date that the client expects it back if there's such a date, the date that it actually moved out, and who the movers were that moved it out. The information on the piano, just the basic information, and who's working on the piano. At school, we need to list who the students are that are working on the piano. If you're a one-man shop, then you really don't need that. And it's not a bad idea to have a picture file that starts with this right here. This piece with all this information, a picture of the fallboard decal that shows, as long as it's correct, that shows what piano you're looking at, and this piece here that shows the serial number and the model. This should be the first picture in that file for this piano, and just identifies this whole piano. The next section, and all these sections up here are all part of that form. They're all the little sections of that form. Disassemble and label the case parts. Note any missing parts. Is the lid there? Most of the time, if it's coming in for a rebuild and it's not getting refinished, I don't want that lid kicking around the shop. I try to get the movers and the client to keep the lid at the client's house. Same thing with the bench. I don't need an extra bench in my shop. I find that if there's 2 benches, they multiply. The next time I come in, there's 3, and then there's 4. We got a pile of benches that ended up never going back with the piano, or dead benches that should be tossed out. I don't need the lid. I don't need the bench. Do I need the action? If I'm doing action work, yes, I need the action. Sometimes another technician is doing the action work. Sometimes there's no action work. I don't like to keep the action at the customer's house. That's a little bit different than keeping the lid there. The action has a lot of moving and breakable parts. Unless the customer has a safe place to put the action, I can store it more safely than they can in a lot of cases. The music desk, is there a music desk? It's a little bit head scratching at the end when you start to put things together and you didn't mark whether there's a music desk and you can't find it, right? The lyre, do you have the lyre? Do you have the lyre sticks? Are there lid hinges? Are there hinge pins? A lot of times the movers put those in their pocket and they forget to take them out. Is there a sostenuto? Sometimes another rebuilder got in there, or another technician got in there, removed the sostenuto, and then you're looking for days for where you put that sostenuto rail. If you mark here, yes or no, that you don't have one, it's plain as day whether you do or not. Pitmans, do you have the sostenuto and the damper pitmans? All good information to know. I like to label the hinges with the hinge pins. This would be the tail most hinge and hinge pin. And this obviously would be the keyboard one. Little parts and pieces that I might find, a loose piece of ivory, a piece of veneer. I put them in little baggies. I'll label it with the customer's name. Same thing with this. There'll be a bin that all these parts and pieces go to, and the bin has the name of the customer and the piano on it. Here's the sostenuto rail. So we do have a sostenuto rail. We have a sostenuto pitman. Pictures are priceless. Make sure you take pictures in addition to taking notes. Diagram or
All right, so I wish I could show you the whole thing. Pretty awesome content from Debbie. I'm very appreciative that she would share such a lot of great information. And I will also make sure I grab the link for that in case anybody wants to grab the lecture. I'm just remembering how, recently I thought, oh yeah, you know what? I'll replace a headlight myself on my Prius, and I did it. But I have to say, there were a couple of moments along the way where, sorry, I'm trying to get this link. I got into it and I was like, am I going to screw something up here? Am I going to dig myself into a hole that I can't get out of? In the end, it was actually a relatively simple procedure, but I didn't know how to do it. Right. So you save yourself. Just a second here. All right. So here's the link to the lecture for folks who are interested. One second. All right. We'll put that into the chat here on Zoom if you're interested. And then also I'll go ahead and put that out for people that are checking us out on social media. And I think, we'll have time. I'm going to hop into another lecture with Fred Sturm about key work. So that one should be kind of fun as well. But here's the link on socials for folks who are interested in sign up for the lecture on grand piano teardown. Awesome. Yeah, so we'll get into one that Fred Sturm joined us for. Fred Sturm is also pretty well known in the industry. Also himself an excellent classical piano player. So we'll check that one out for a little bit. But yeah, just a little bit more on the rebuilding process. Like I've heard so many stories of this grand ideas that people have about a piano rebuilding project, and they get into it. And number one, the first time around, it takes 5 years, right? It just ends up being this project that sits in the garage because they end up hitting some type of roadblock or some type of confusing element. And also the stories of, I took on that big project and I looked back and I did the numbers and I think I paid myself about $1 an hour, when I do all the math. And so you can imagine a lecture like this could save you hundreds of thousands of dollars along the way in kind of stalled out time or time redoing things that you didn't know you were going to have to redo, or you didn't know you're going to make a mistake in the moment. So, yep, check that one out if you're interested. Did anybody have any other comments or questions, or are we interested in just checking out this Fred Sturm lecture a little bit? All right, let's hit it. I think it'll be a fun one. Give me one moment to load that up. All right. Got too many windows open here. There's that. Here it is, Precision Key Service. And so we'll probably get about maybe 10 minutes, 8 to 10 minutes of this, and then we'll get in and we'll wrap up the session. Okay, and hit the full screen.
So Fred performs regularly and has recorded and released 5 CDs, with another in process. As a piano technician, he has worked since 1986 for the University of New Mexico on a part-time basis with a private clientele as well. Sturm's training has included the full 4 weeks of the C.F. Theodore Steinway Academy, 1 week of training with Shigeru Kawai, 2 weeks at the Sauter Factory in Spikingen, Germany, 10 or more national PTG conventions, and various other opportunities. So we'll welcome him to chat about what he would like today. Welcome, Fred.
Thank you. Oops. Oh, come on. a dumb.
There you go.
Well, anyway, never mind. Here I am.
Oh, by the way,
Yeah,
I'll say
I'm,
this in case you forget. You
delighted
said that you have
to
like a.
have this opportunity to see you all and to, well, not to see you all at the same time, but to be with you all over the world. I am going to be sharing work that I have done on, or protocols and techniques that I have done on actions at a university setting over a period of a couple, 3 decades. I think that any of us would recognize that when you're working on actions, you need to lay a good foundation. Start at the bottom and work up is the typical way that we speak of it. And so I'm going to be looking at how to do refined key prep work efficiently and at a very high level. The kinds of techniques that I did on keys of 100 pianos, and some of them multiple times, refined them over the years, and to make them more efficient, to make them a little bit better. The first segment of the class, I'll be talking about techniques for a fairly new piano in which the keys are reasonably tight on the pins. And I'll be demonstrating, in that case, on an upright piano and its keys. This is the kind of key prep that I would do in my university setting on every new piano that came along, but I also did it on any of the older pianos that had been there when I was already there, as long as they didn't need rebushing. In the second half, I'll be dealing with keys that are somewhat too loose. The bushings are too loose, but not so worn as to need rebushing, and I'll be demonstrating on a grand piano. The importance of the key really can't be overstated. Its reliability is absolutely fundamental to the action's functioning, but if you're like me, you probably have the tendency to ignore keys in everyday work until a problem arises, because it's troublesome to get at them. You have to pull the keyframe into action, pull the stack, the key up stop rail in a grand. On an upright, you have to pull the fall board and whatever is the key stop rail on it. A lot of trouble just to deal with one sticking key, so we usually find a way around that. In this class, we'll be looking at what you would do once you've gone to the trouble of disassembly. Might as well do all the keys, and might as well do them well enough so that you will not have that trouble for many, many months, years. We're often blissfully unaware of borderline sluggishness and inconsistencies across the keyboard. If I assume probably most of the people here have done key weighting. If you haven't, well, trust me that when you're doing key weighting and you find that there is an issue with friction, it seems like almost 90% of the time that friction has its source in the keys. So getting the friction absolutely consistent and minimal with the keys is really has a significant impact on the action function, especially with respect to repetition and touch weight. So that has to do with function, but there's also the element of touch. The feel of a key is the most basic part of a pianist's interaction with the piano. If you have to get a silky and smooth touch requires that we have next to no side-to-side wobble, knocking, as well as resilience of the bushing felt. And there is also an issue of friction when the key is pressed against the pin, as happens when you're doing a glissando or rapid scale passages. There may be near zero friction if you measure it just using down weight and up weight methods. But the felted cloth of the bushing might almost feel like it is abrading against the pin if side pressure is applied. So lubrication is really a must. And it's also going to have an impact in reducing wear and compaction. So it'll make your work last longer. So what are we after with keys? We want good function and feel, and we want longevity. For function and feel, we begin by making sure all the key bushings and balance holes are consistently well fit precisely to their pins, and that the keys function freely with minimal wobble and knocking. We're walking a tightrope here. It needs to be free and have no wobble. So that's impossible. We try to get to the sweet spot where we have minimal wobble and almost perfect freedom. And for longevity, we'll apply appropriate lubricants to the various rubbing surfaces of the keys and the key pins to minimize future wear and compaction. The techniques we're going to use, we'll lubricate the key pins using a dry film lubricant, McLube 444, on the surfaces that are rubbed by the bushing felt. While we're at it, we'll clean the key bed. We will ream, this is in this first class, we're doing doing it on an upright. We'll ream the balance holes of the keys precisely to size and lightly taper them so as to eliminate any binding. And we'll lubricate the key bushings with Teflon powder, followed by ironing the bushing cloth to achieve a precise fit relative to the pin size. And this technique, as I said earlier, is used when the keys bushings are somewhere between about right and too tight. If they are too loose, we'll be dealing with that in the second section of the class, where we'll talk about reversing compression using steam. And finally, we'll apply some McLube 444 to the key capstans. So let's get started. We've got the action out. We'll begin by removing the keys a section at a time, placing them on their neighboring section to keep them in order and allow full access to the points we need to address. The keys should be lifted as vertically as possible to avoid elongating the balance holes. So we want to try to lift them from the front and back kind of at the same time. And we'll do this section and then we'll put these keys back and move on to the next section. As long as you've got the keys out, a thorough cleaning is a good idea. And
All right, we'll pause there on that one just because we're about out of time for today's session. But yes, another similar to Debbie's lecture, something where, if you haven't done it before or you're new to the process or you just want to make sure you're not missing anything or you're wanting to make it your process more efficient, then I think it's a really great resource. So I will put the link for that lecture also into the chat. I'm trying to see if I added it. If I have, wanted to pull it up here. Yes, I have it. I sent it to myself. So I'll put that link in the chat. But we'll pretty much wrap up for today, unless anybody had any other comments or questions before we wrap. Anybody want to say their piece? All right. Is that you, Johan, or are you just logging off? No, you're good. All right. All right. I'll put the link in for the lecture. Hope everyone has a happy holiday. I'm still figuring out what to do next week. We're literally on Christmas Day would be our normal programming. So we'll either skip next week or we'll have some sort of like holiday special for next week, but I'll let you guys know during the week in the emails what the plan is there. In the meantime, let me get this link together and then I'll do our sign off and then we'll hit the road for today. I appreciate everyone joining us. Here's the link in the chat here on Zoom if you're interested in that Fred Sturm lecture on key work. And then let me get over here into our online stream and make sure that they have that key work lecture. Put that link in there for folks on Facebook and YouTube. All right. Well, with that, this concludes another session of Piano Tech Radio Hour. Thanks a lot for everyone joining us today, everyone that contributed in the conversation. As always, we're brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses, cutting edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. For those of you that joined us today by signing up for this session individually, you can make your life more convenient by subscribing to Piano Tech Radio Hour, just $16 a month. You get the recording of today's session in our member area, as well as automatic registration for each week's new session. You could sign up at pianotechniciansmasterclass.com/PTRH-direct access. I'll put that link in the chat as well for those that are interested. And by the way, if you check your email and you are not already a subscriber to Piano Technicians Masterclasses, there's a 25% discount literally for 12 months of Piano Tech Radio Hour. So if you want to go in for $12 a month for the next 12 months, you can find that coupon code in your email and you can sign up there. A little holiday gift for those of you that are interested in joining us for the first time at Piano Tech Radio Hour. All right, without further ado, I'll sign us off for today. Thank you everyone for joining and have a happy holiday.